wow, if you could actually lower your fixed cost by any amount, it would be amazing. Now, there are some very cost-effective things that you can do to lower your fixed cost when you're running a company, but those don't necessarily create a lot of jobs. What that does do is that does increase the amount of working capital that one could do to potentially hire other people, but I mean, that's not a dramatic improvement. What would be a dramatic improvement is bringing something online like a molten salt reactor that would slash your energy cost. I mean, if production on 166 megawatt thermal, so approximately a 50 megawatt electric MSR, you could bring one of those online and get 2 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour as your production cost. Okay, fine, make it a monopoly and double that. So now you're at 4 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. Fabulous. Do you know what that would do for more urban areas like where I live in the metropolitan New York area? Oh my God, we're paying 20.4 cents per kilowatt hour right now. Right? I mean, probably the same thing from where Cavan hails up in Boston, right? I mean, yeah, the kilowatt hour costs are insane.
We're also looking out for Cape Wind.
Right, Cape Wind, right.
Looking out for Cape Wind, and they've got a really cushy power purchase contract there. Mandated by the state, of course.
Let's make our windmills, let's make our solar panels, but let's make the Faustian bargain with natural gas. So, because natural gas really has to make up, for all of the energy that wind and solar don't produce, which is appreciable. In some cases, I saw one study on EIA.gov who said that for every 1/3, I think it was in California, for every 1/3 of electric power that's produced, 1/3 of a unit, 2/3 has to be produced by natural gas.
That's also backed up Eastern Wind Integration Study. The maximum they considered was a generous 30% renewable market penetration. Anything higher than that, you're just going to start destabilizing the grid. It's that 1/3, 2/3, it's that magic 1/3, 2/3 ratio, and that's even being generous.
Right.
So we got states in New England claiming you're going to run a 90% renewables. In order to, you could do it, but you would have the electrical grid of a third world country.
Right. So how is that creating jobs? That's not creating jobs. That's creating jobs that go nowhere. So now you build nacelles, or you build these entire wind turbines. Okay, fine, you've made a green job there, but you've now crushed the rest of the economy by demanding, requiring much, much higher kilowatt hour prices. Well, for actual manufacturing, that's a death sentence. I don't care where you are. And to take Cavan's example, in the Metro Boston area, what is it, 123 corridor?
128.
I'm sorry, 128 corridor, where you have this high technology corridor along Route 128. Well, their energy requirements are rather appreciable, because they're not just making axes and hammers. They're making semiconductor chips, and they're pushing the limits of optics and photonics and semiconductors. Well, that requires a fair amount of electricity. Yeah, medical devices.
Massachusetts is the capital for medical devices now.
Right.
Medical devices, biotech.
And I can tell you right now that as a practicing chemist, a practicing scientist, the equipment that you use to investigate your materials, whether it's on a macroscopic level or like me on a microscopic level, those machines require power, a lot of power. If you look at the back of every single investigative device, like a gas, a GCMS, a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, it gives you the option for 208, 3-phase. Why? Because that represents a cost savings by going to 3-phase 208 power. Well, okay, that's fine, but you're saving there. But I mean, if your baseload cost in your monthly electric bill, and you're trying to run a lab and you're trying to put food on the table for your kids, is gargantuan as a direct result of the dramatically increased costs because of some silly, irrational mandate for adopting solar and wind power, that doesn't help me hire another biochemist or another physicist or another. That doesn't help me at all.
You're using too much energy. You got to find a way to use less energy, Stephen.
I have CFL bulbs in every single room of my lab. I have not bought one new piece of equipment at all because I can't afford it. We shut the breakers off so that there's no current leakage at night. Okay, so we're doing absolutely everything we possibly can to keep our fixed costs as low as possible.
How do you save power on NMR?
What am I going to do? Invent a new X-ray that's not going to pull, that's not going to make a 50 kV to basically make my X-rays. So I'm actually not using very much power. But what's crushing me is writing a check for every month for 20.4 cents per kilowatt hour, on Long Island. Split that in half and I can actually hire more people. Now Long Island, of course, is a bizarre and stupid case because we have the only nuclear reactor that's ever been built that was never turned on. Yeah, Shoreham. So.
Can you imagine what your power cost would be of Shoreham? Let's use the Shoreham case.
Let's use the Shoreham case. Guess what we're still paying for as Long Islanders? We are still paying the debt service on the borrowing for Shoreham.
And we get absolutely no benefit from it.
We're paying debt service on something that was never turned on. So what are they going to do? Where is the power going to come from if they try to shut down Indian Point? Where is the power going to come from?
He's going to send the electric bill skyrocketing.
He's going to crush New York industry. New York has a rather thriving industry because they have an interesting mix of agricultural immediately north of New York City, and then now with the now former Bloomberg administration bringing in, basically creating a technology corridor on the southern tip of Roosevelt Island. He's bringing in kind of a consortium between New York City, Technion University, I believe, and Cornell University, and they're creating a high technology corridor on the southern tip of Roosevelt Island. Well, where are they going to get their power from?
Well, they're going to say gas turbines. I mean,
gas turbines, and then there's a moratorium on fracking in New York State.
So, I mean, this whole renewables thing, effectively renewables are a bait and switch for natural gas because of this 1/3, 2/3 ratio. For every 1/3 of power you get from renewables, you need 2/3 natural gas backup.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Would you say to them, maybe instead of building another wind turbine, maybe you should look into a transmission line to balance the power?
If you want to get 90% market penetration of wind turbines, solar panels, solve the energy storage problem.
You worked in batteries.
I worked in batteries, yeah, and I just finished a postdoctoral fellowship in the physics astronomy department at one of the universities. This is what the DOE has done. The DOE has thrown a lot of money toward chemical energy storage, right? In other words, batteries, okay? And they just spent a lot of money on researching this problem. Guess what? We made very little progress. Why? Poor management. It's a really, really challenging problem, chemically speaking. Batteries are very, very difficult problems. And number three, they just cut the funding.
Really?
My fellowship was not renewed because there's no more money. They cut the budget.
What are they going to
do? So fine. So as Cavan pointed out, what are you going to do? I was literally running experiments on novel battery materials. Lithium-ion battery materials, just like the one in the back of this thing, okay? But it's different types of crystals, okay? To try and increase the efficiency of batteries. They're called conversion materials. We don't have a better battery. There are different ideas that are out there. There are the huge batteries based on vanadium, and that may work, but there's a huge upfront cost on that. There are other types of what are called fluid batteries. If you see those batteries, flow batteries, and those are great, but the energy density is incredibly low. So you need massive volumes of basically aqueous salt in order to store the energy, and the energy density is again very low. So again, we're still stuck. So you have to think the problem through from start to finish. You can't just say windmill, windmill, windmill. When that's intermittent energy at best, costly, And there's no effective, cost-effective way of reasonably storing that electricity. What are you going to do?
You get enough windmills deployed that you hit your next problem, which ultimately it's going to be energy storage, right? If it's not already energy storage, it's going to be energy storage, and it'll force that to be solved.
It's like presupposing that people are insufficiently motivated.
Right.
It's like there's plenty of motivation. Believe me, if we could make kick-ass lithium batteries, we would. We would be getting like millions of dollars from Google.
Right.
It would be $1 billion industry if we could.
I'd be on a first name basis with Elon Musk.
I mean,
which would be awesome.
I mean, Elon Musk is trying. I mean, to say, oh, if we just put more pressure on people, they're motivated, smart people trying to look at this.
Absolutely. I personally think windmills and solar are silly because the physics isn't there, the chemistry isn't there. But let's assume for a second that the physics and chemistry are there, okay? Start writing checks, gargantuan checks. A very good friend of mine with whom I work is German, and he's a researcher, and he now works at Karlsruhe, right, KIT, in Karlsruhe, Germany. They just threw money at him. They just threw 2.3 million euro at him to fully outfit a university lab. And he's running the show, and he's got postdocs, and he's got grad students, and he's got all the best toys, right? Has he solved the energy problem, the energy storage problem with respect to batteries? No. So if the answer is, okay, build a better battery, throw tons of money at it. But guess what? Unfortunately, we are human. We are only as smart as we are.
Here's the task, though. Can you predict when that discovery will be made? There's
I'm just saying, like,
the only way forward is
Edisonian. Getting $120,000 a year.
It's grind through, which is just trying materials. There's so many materials to try. We could be waiting 100 years.
The more money, arguably speaking, the less time, right? There's an inverse relationship. You throw more money at a problem, it will take you less time. Great. If the Greens and the left, who are very, very earthy, crunchy and want wind and solar, and mind you, I'm a deadhead. If they want to solve the problem and they want to truly implement wind and solar, throw money at chemical energy storage. Throw money at it. Greenpeace should be writing checks for millions and millions of dollars to chemists like my former PhD advisor, who is world-renowned in battery chemistry. They should be writing her a check for $10 million, $20 million. That's what's going to solve the chemical energy storage problem.
But here's the question: how much money would it take? Can you even put an estimate?
I don't know.
It could be $1,000, $1 million, $1 trillion. We just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because
you just got to keep throwing money at it.
It's an Edisonian process. We have very little theoretical guidance of where to look. We just have.
We have some guidance. I mean, with the conversion materials that we were working on, a class of.
We have no material in mind that we have, good evidence that we know with a great deal of certainty. Yeah, this material will work.
That's correct. Yeah, we have lithium cobalt oxide. We know that fails. We've got these conversion materials which are making use of the additional oxidation states of iron, right? Because iron has multiple oxidation states, which would be great. For every additional oxidation state that you can make use of, you've effectively doubled your energy density, right? Because the energy density of lithium-ion batteries right now is 1, right? Because your lithium carrier can only carry 1 charge, right? And 1 electron. Right? Well, if you can use a cathode, right, that has more than 1 oxidation state, like iron, it can go to +2, right? It can go to +1, it can go to 0, right? It can potentially even go to +3, right? At least in these battery systems. Well, those are multiple oxidation states that you can exploit. You add more lithium in than the iron, and you can have a greatly increased energy density. The problem is, that's a great idea, but we still understand very, very little about these nice conversion materials.